There is a moment in every conversation where power shifts, a moment where one voice becomes the leader and the other becomes the follower. You have felt this. At times, you were the one who commanded the room without trying, and at other times, you watched your influence slip through your fingers. This message begins at that exact fault line. Most people believe persuasion is about clever words, charm, or quick wit. They are wrong. Persuasion begins long before the first sentence is spoken. It begins in the mind of the one who speaks. And if you master that mind, your own, you will master every room you enter. Let me confront you with a truth you may have avoided. The world rarely listens to the man who merely talks. It listens to the man whose thought carries weight. You have met him before, the one who speaks quietly, yet others lean in. The one whose presence alone shifts the tone of a meeting. The one whose words land with such force that arguments crumble before they even begin. That man is not lucky. He is trained. Ask yourself honestly, how many opportunities have slipped away because your voice failed to carry conviction? How many times did you know exactly what you wanted to say, yet the moment evaporated before you found the courage or clarity to speak with authority? How many conversations ended with you thinking, I should have said more, I should have said it differently, I should have said it with strength? This is the cost of untrained communication. It is not small. It touches your career, your relationships, your income, your influence, your destiny. A man who cannot persuade will always live beneath a man who can. But persuasion, real persuasion, does not mean manipulation. It means leading the mind of another by first disciplining your own. It means understanding the unseen forces that move human thought: desire, fear, certainty, confidence, imagination, and speaking in a way that awakens them with precision. Before I reveal how this is done, you must understand the danger of entering another conversation without this knowledge. Every time you speak without purpose, you surrender authority. Every time you allow someone else to define the tone, you abdicate power. Every time you hesitate, the moment closes like a door. Communication is not neutral. It is won or lost. You may wonder why certain men command loyalty, inspire action, and ignite belief with a single sentence. It is not their vocabulary that gives them power. It is their definiteness. They know precisely what they want another to feel, think, or do. And every word they speak marches toward that aim. Most people speak to be heard. Persuasive men speak to create an effect. You must decide which man you intend to be. Think of the speeches that stirred nations, the conversations that forged alliances, the simple phrases that turned strangers into allies and doubters into supporters. Behind each one was a mind trained in the psychology of influence, a mind that understood this law. People follow the voice that knows where it is going. Now pause, feel that, because that is the first key of persuasive communication: certainty. When your mind is certain, your words become instruments of intention. When your mind is uncertain, your words become noise. But certainty alone is not enough. You must learn to speak to the underlying motives of those you wish to persuade. Every man breathes the same unseen currents: desire for gain, fear of loss, hunger for belonging, respect for strength, admiration for conviction. He may hide these motives, but they govern him all the same. To master communication, you must speak to these deeper impulses, not to the surface of his intellect. Consider this. How often have you attempted to reason with someone only to find logic powerless? How often have you explained your viewpoint with clarity, only to be met with resistance? That is because persuasion is not the science of intellect. It is the art of influence. The mind follows emotion first, reasoning second. Learn to guide emotion, and thought will follow as naturally as a shadow. But there is something even more powerful. The most persuasive communicators do not speak at people. They speak into them. Their words bypass resistance because they address the truth a man already feels. but cannot yet articulate. They awaken what he knows but has not expressed. They give voice to what lies unspoken in his own heart. And when you reflect a man's inner world back to him with accuracy, he follows your guidance instinctively. Let me reveal another truth. Persuasive communication requires command over silence. Weak men fill every gap with chatter. Persuasive men let silence do its work. Silence draws attention. Silence builds anticipation. Silence creates focus. When you speak into silence, your words land with 10 times the weight. But persuasion demands more still. It requires that you stand before others with an identity stronger than their doubt. If you speak with the posture of uncertainty, your words betray you. You must build within yourself the unwavering conviction that your message deserves attention, that confidence is felt long before your argument is understood. And allow me to tell you something crucial. Your influence will always mirror your internal state. If you carry confusion, your speech confuses. If you carry fear, your speech weakens. If you carry authority, your speech commands. Master your inner world, and your outer world will follow with precision. You may think persuasion is for leaders, entrepreneurs, or speakers alone, but persuasion is for every man who wishes to rise. Every promotion requires it. Every relationship depends on it. Every opportunity responds to it, and every goal demands it. If you cannot persuade, you cannot lead. If you cannot lead, you cannot advance. Now imagine, just imagine, what your life would become if your voice carried the force of conviction, the precision of purpose, the magnetism of confidence. Imagine entering any room and feeling the atmosphere bend in your direction. Imagine speaking and knowing that your words will land exactly where they are intended. Imagine living a life where you are no longer ignored, misunderstood, or overlooked. This is not fantasy, it is law. And once you understand the psychology behind persuasive communication, you will never again speak like a man hoping to be believed. You will speak like a man who cannot be denied. So steady yourself now. Guard your attention. You are about to learn how to speak with the influence, clarity, and power that commands respect. The psychology of persuasion is not complicated, but it is decisive. And once you master it, the world will listen. Every man carries within him a voice that the world can hear, but few ever discover the one that the world must obey. They speak from the lips, not from the depths. They choose words, but neglect the force that gives words life, thought. For words are only vessels. It is the power that fills them that determines whether they sink or sail. There are 2 forms of language spoken in every conversation: the language of words and the language of conviction. The first is audible to the ear. The second is felt by the spirit. One may mispronounce a sentence and still persuade. Another may speak with perfect diction and fail utterly. The difference lies in vibration, the unseen tone of certainty that travels beneath sound and governs it. You cannot learn this art by imitation. The copyist borrows another man's gesture, his phrasing, his poise, but not his power. Power cannot be borrowed. It must be cultivated within until the mind and the message are one. Before you learn to speak, you must learn to believe, for no sentence can rise higher than the faith that gives it birth. True persuasion is not a contest of clever words. It is a contest of inner states. Men listen first to what you are and then to what you say. If the two disagree, they will forget your words and remember only the contradiction. But if they agree, your voice becomes law to the subconscious minds of those who hear it. You cease merely speaking. You begin transmitting. Consider the story of a timid clerk who once trembled at the sound of his own name when called by a superior. His speech was hesitant, his opinions silenced by doubt. Yet within him stirred an unrest that would not die, the sense that fear was no fit companion for a man. He resolved to master confidence. Each day he practiced the posture of decisiveness until it became natural. That timid clerk was Andrew Carnegie, who rose to command an empire of steel and men. His transformation began not with machinery, but with mind. Carnegie discovered a law. Before a man can command others, he must command himself. The trembling voice of uncertainty cannot direct strong men. He built conviction the way a builder lays stone, thought upon thought, decision upon decision, until confidence stood complete. When he spoke, others heard the echo of his purpose. They did not follow his sentence, they followed his certainty. Understand this. Persuasion begins the moment the mind ceases to seek permission and begins to project intention. The man who enters a room to convince is weaker than the man who enters to declare. For the latter has already decided what must be done, and the world senses it. There is no arrogance in certainty when it springs from service. It is the calm assurance that truth, once spoken with faith, will command its own obedience. People read your faith before they hear your phrase. They see in your bearing the sum of your belief. The tone of self-trust precedes the tone of speech. You cannot feign conviction, for the subconscious of others is more accurate than any ear. It detects weakness in hesitation, fear in over-explanation, uncertainty in every hurried word. He who governs his breath, posture, and silence governs the emotions of his listener. The body is the outer symbol of the mind's order. A straight spine, an unhurried gesture, a controlled breath, these announce mastery before you speak. Even silence, when born of confidence, persuades. The anxious talker, seeking approval through noise, loses the crown that stillness alone bestows. Calmness in voice is born of clarity in mind. The tongue merely obeys the ruler thought. If the mind is scattered, the voice trembles. If the mind is ordered, the words march as soldiers behind a single flag. Before you attempt to influence another, bring order to your own ranks of thought. Decide precisely what you wish to convey, what effect you intend to create, what purpose your words must serve, then speak as one issuing a command, not as one offering a suggestion. Most men rush to speak merely to be heard. The wise man waits to speak to be understood. Patience is not hesitation, it is poise. The king of speech rules through timing. He knows that silence before a sentence gives birth to authority, that a pause before a truth multiplies its power. The impatient talker forfeits attention. The measured speaker gathers it like treasure. Before every sentence, make this silent affirmation. Before I speak, I decide. Before I decide, I believe. Therefore, when I speak, my words must move men. This is not poetry, but discipline. The mind that repeats such command will soon shape itself to match its order until confidence becomes habit and habit becomes nature. There is a law in nature that cannot be broken. Energy moves from the stronger to the weaker current. In every conversation, there are two forces, the will to lead and the will to yield. The one whose thought is clearest unconsciously becomes the leader. This is why those who are definite always influence those who are doubtful. Definite thought emits energy. Uncertain thought consumes it. When you next speak, ask yourself, do I seek approval or do I project conviction? If you seek approval, your tone will betray dependence. If you project conviction, your tone will carry command. You must learn to hear your own voice as others hear it, not merely as sound, but as atmosphere. Every word you utter changes the mental climate of those who listen. Speak warmth, and hearts open. Speak fear, and they close. In my years of study, I have never known a man of enduring success who spoke without deliberation. Even their simplest words carried design. They never wasted a phrase. Their speech was measured, their tone quiet, their faith unshakable. The reason is simple. Such men think before they speak. They send thought ahead of voice as a herald to prepare the way. A man once asked Henry Ford how he inspired thousands of men to act with unity and zeal. Ford answered, "Because I never speak until I am certain what I wish to say." His words were few, but each bore the weight of thought. When Ford spoke, men acted, not because his sentences were elaborate, but because his mind was resolved. Certainty compresses energy. When released in speech, it strikes like lightning, brief, bright, decisive. Learn to prepare the mind before you prepare the mouth. When you know inwardly that your message is true, your tone will reveal it. Thought and belief are the invisible draftsmen of speech. Each word you speak is a structure built upon them. If the foundation wavers, the building collapses, no matter how fine its ornament. To master communication, master thinking. Fill the mind with clear images of what you wish to express. Feel it first, live it inwardly, until the idea possesses you. Then speak as one describing what he has seen, not what he has guessed. The listener will sense that certainty and surrender to it. For men follow the one who has seen further than they have dared imagine. Imagine for a moment a great orchestra tuning before performance. Each instrument sounds discordant until the conductor lifts his baton. In that instant, chaos becomes order. Such is the difference between the untrained speaker and the master of persuasion. The latter is conductor of his own mind. Every note, thought, breath, gesture, word plays in harmony. Listeners feel the rhythm and cannot resist its pull. Repetition is the key that locks certainty into habit. Repeat your belief daily until doubt tires of visiting. Repeat your aim until your tone unconsciously declares it. Repetition engraves authority into the subconscious, and the subconscious governs voice more than will. That is why men trained in conviction appear naturally confident. They have rehearsed certainty until it became instinct. The untrained speaker thinks only of words. The master thinks of results. He begins with a definite aim: to inspire, to calm, to awaken, to persuade. Each phrase becomes a step toward that goal. There is no waste, no confusion, no contradiction. The mind of purpose dictates the rhythm, and the voice obeys. Others sense that purpose and yield to it willingly, for all men crave leadership of conviction. There is an invisible law that rewards definiteness. Life listens to the man who knows what he wants. Likewise, people listen to the speaker who knows what he means. Your clarity of thought becomes their clarity of decision. Confuse them, and they withdraw. Guide them, and they follow. When you stand before others, remember this sacred truth. Every audience, whether of one or of many, seeks certainty. They long to feel the presence of one who knows where he is going. Give them that gift. Speak not to impress, but to illuminate. Speak as though you hold a torch in darkness, and your task is to lead others to sight. The glow of your confidence will be the proof of your sincerity. Do not rush. Power travels slowly, like a river that moves mountains through persistence. The hurried man betrays anxiety. The steady man transmits control. It is better to speak 10 words born of conviction than 1,000 born of confusion. The listener forgets the number of your words, but remembers forever the tone of your authority. Every master of communication carries a serenity that cannot be faked. It is born of inner certainty. When the mind is definite, the voice is calm. When the heart is sure, the hands are steady. When purpose is clear, expression becomes inevitable. Calmness itself persuades, for men feel safe in the presence of composure. Train daily in the silence of thought. Before speaking, gather your ideas, polish them in reflection, and clothe them in faith. Then, when you open your mouth, every sentence will bear the weight of preparation. You will no longer fear forgetting words, for the idea itself will supply them. The man who trusts his idea never lacks expression. Never mistake loudness for power. A whisper from conviction reaches further than a shout from uncertainty. Volume without faith is noise. Quietness with purpose is command. Learn to modulate tone as one directs light, gentle where persuasion demands, firm where conviction must strike. The controlled voice is irresistible because it mirrors the controlled mind. Let this be your rule. Think deeply, decide firmly, speak calmly. Every word spoken thus becomes seed of influence. The harvest may not appear at once, but the law of cause and effect guarantees its return. Every great orator, every leader of men, every teacher who stirred nations began not with talent, but with definite thought. Their power was invisible before it was audible. Therefore, remember always, the invisible source of power in speech is mental clarity combined with faith. You may decorate sentences, polish diction, and practice posture, but until your thought is ordered, your speech will lack soul. The world does not need more words. It needs more conviction. Speak from conviction, and your words will live longer than your voice. Hold this final affirmation in mind. My thought is definite. My belief is firm. My words are the echo of my conviction. I speak not to please, but to reveal truth, and truth obeys me. And so we begin this journey of persuasion where all power begins, not with vocabulary, but with vision, not with sound, but with certainty. For the quality of your thinking will forever determine the command of your speaking. The voice of influence is born from unity. When thought, emotion, and expression move as one, they form a current of power that no resistance can withstand. Most men fail not because they lack words, but because their words betray a divided self. Their lips speak confidence, while their eyes confess doubt. Their sentences declare certainty, while their posture whispers fear. The listener feels the fracture and withdraws. Persuasion begins when the inner and outer man meet in agreement. When the thought is pure, the emotion true, and the voice aligned, the effect is magnetic. You cannot deceive harmony. It must be genuine. The man whose mind and message are one commands without effort. Others feel in him what they long to feel in themselves, unity of purpose. Imagine the untrained speaker. He thinks of results while trying to remember his words, worries about approval while forcing enthusiasm, and hopes for success while fearing failure. His energy splinters like light through broken glass. The persuasive man, however, concentrates all rays of thought upon one point. His belief, feeling, and voice fuse into a single beam that burns through doubt. I call this the triangle of power. Thought is its apex, emotion its fuel, expression its vehicle. When one side weakens, influence collapses. When all sides support one another, persuasion becomes inevitable. The mind conceives, the heart believes, and the voice transmits. This is the secret rhythm of influence known to every great leader and communicator who ever lived. Most men attempt to persuade with reason alone, forgetting that reason without emotion is a lamp without flame. Thought provides structure, but emotion provides movement. The voice must carry both, the precision of logic and the warmth of feeling. Only then does it pierce both mind and heart. A speech cold with intellect may inform, but only a speech warm with sincerity transforms. Consider Charles M. Schwab, who rose from steel worker to the heights of industry. His genius was not only in managing operations, but in managing men. His presence kindled enthusiasm because he was himself aflame with belief. He never feigned cheerfulness. It was natural because he believed in his mission. When he spoke, executives forgot the figures and felt the faith. His words aligned with his spirit, and his spirit commanded. Beware the danger of borrowed enthusiasm. It is the counterfeit coin of persuasion. Some men mimic the gestures, the voice, the energy of conviction. Yet beneath the performance lies emptiness. The audience senses the false note instantly. True enthusiasm is quiet strength. Imitation is restless noise. The world rewards sincerity because sincerity is the mark of mental alignment. Sincerity is the tuning fork of speech. When struck by genuine purpose, it vibrates in harmony with all who hear. No listener can resist the resonance of truth. It reaches beyond intellect and speaks directly to spirit. To cultivate this, think not of impressing others, but of expressing truth clearly. When your motive is clean, your tone will ring clear. Before you speak, settle the heart. If your intention wavers, your voice will wander. If your purpose is divided, your phrases will falter. Take time to unify motive and message. Ask, what do I wish this man to feel? What do I wish him to believe? What do I wish him to do? Then let your words serve that purpose alone. Everything else is noise. Observe how emotion affects voice. The tone of a calm heart differs from that of a fearful one. The tone of faith vibrates differently from that of uncertainty. When you are fully persuaded within yourself, the rhythm of your breath changes. Your eyes steady, your words carry conviction unconsciously. No technique can imitate this. It is the natural result of inner alignment. Practice this exercise daily. Stand before a mirror, state your definite chief aim, and speak it aloud until your tone, face, and feeling harmonize. Continue until your expression flows without effort. When your heart and speech unite, you will feel an inner click, the moment when thought becomes power in motion. Do this until your aim and your voice are one unbroken current of faith. Affirmation. I speak from unity. My mind decides, my heart believes, my voice commands. Repeat this as the oath of communication. It will remind you that the persuasive voice is not an act of the lips, but a declaration of the whole being. Look to Thomas Edison. When he addressed his team, he spoke not merely of tasks, but of possibilities. His belief in unseen invention was so strong that others borrowed his confidence until it became their own. He never shouted, never argued. He simply believed aloud. His words carried authority because they carried harmony between vision and voice. When your mind, emotion, and expression are aligned, the listener feels peace in your presence. There is no struggle in your persuasion because your energy moves in one direction. Others trust harmony instinctively. It reminds them of order in a chaotic world. They surrender willingly to a will that is whole. The man who has achieved mental alignment does not try to convince. He allows others to perceive his conviction. His influence flows naturally, like heat from fire. The divided man may have better logic, but the unified man has more life. Logic instructs. Life inspires. Inspiration is the true art of persuasion. There is a rhythm in every effective speaker's tone. It is not the rhythm of rehearsed performance, but of thought, feeling, and expression moving as one continuous stream. When the rhythm is broken, attention falters. When it flows, attention follows effortlessly. Therefore, avoid contradiction in thought, inconsistency in emotion, or excess in gesture. Let everything serve the message. To maintain alignment, you must live what you speak. If your words praise discipline, but your habits betray sloth, your tone will reveal the hypocrisy before critics can. The subconscious cannot hide inconsistency. Integrity is the invisible power that keeps speech straight. You cannot speak persuasively of principles you do not obey. The world may not see your private conduct, but it will hear it in your voice. Faith, emotion, and thought are the three strings of persuasion's instrument. Tune them daily. Too much reasoning dulls warmth. Too much emotion clouds clarity. Too little belief kills both. Balance is mastery. When in balance, your words strike the exact note needed for influence. Never speak while doubting. Silence is stronger than uncertain speech. Doubt poisons tone, and tone betrays doubt before words can disguise it. Better to pause and realign than to continue divided. One moment of inward stillness can restore harmony faster than 1,000 rehearsed sentences. Persuasion is the art of transmitting inner conviction without distortion. It is mental electricity flowing through the conductor of speech. The wire must be clear of resistance, fear, insincerity, or self-consciousness, else the current weakens. The purest conductor is unity of purpose. Speak from it, and your influence will glow. This law of mental alignment transforms speech into leadership. Men follow not the one who pleads, but the one who embodies belief. They feel his certainty and find in it refuge from their own hesitation. He becomes a living standard by which they measure courage. His words guide because his being commands. Harmony of mind and voice is the unseen melody of power. Each time you think, feel, and express as one, you train your subconscious to operate as a single unit. With repetition, the habit of unity becomes your nature. Then persuasion ceases to be an act and becomes identity. You will no longer perform influence, you will be influence. In every conversation, alignment decides authority. Speak from divided thought, and your power scatters. Speak from unified conviction, and your words will strike like an arrow to the mark. The listener will not know why he believes you. He will simply feel that he must. The law works quietly, but it never fails. Therefore, before addressing others, address yourself. Align your purpose with truth, your emotion with faith, your tone with calm. Say within, my thought is clear, my feeling pure, my voice steady. Let this inner trinity rule your speech. When you speak thus, resistance melts and persuasion becomes effortless. The man who unites these three powers within becomes irresistible. He speaks and decisions are made, not because he dominates, but because his mind, heart, and voice act as one law. To listen to such a man is to feel order returning to chaos. His certainty becomes the listener's clarity. This is the secret of all enduring influence. Hold this as a final command to your own spirit. I am undivided. My thought, my emotion, and my voice serve one master, purpose. Therefore, my words cannot fail, for truth speaks through unity. When you have reached this alignment, you will find that persuasion is no longer effort, but expression. The world bends to the voice that is one with itself. No man is persuaded by argument alone. You may reason with another for hours, present proofs as strong as iron, and yet fail to move him an inch. But one sentence spoken with emotion will bend his mind as the wind bends the reed. For men are not machines of logic. They are instruments of feeling. Emotion is the unseen hand that steers the intellect, and he who understands this law governs men without their knowing it. Logic convinces minds, but emotion moves lives. You have seen this in your own affairs. A man may agree with your reasoning and yet do nothing about it. Another, stirred by faith or enthusiasm, acts at once. The difference lies not in knowledge, but in feeling. The master communicator therefore studies the currents of emotion as a navigator studies the tides. He learns to awaken them honorably, to direct them toward definite ends. Every human being, whether he admits it or not, is guided by the same inner motives: desire for gain, fear of loss, hunger for belonging, pride in ability, need of security, longing for importance. Persuasion is the art of awakening these motives through speech so that the listener's own energy moves him to act. To manipulate them is deceit. To harmonize with them is genius. When you speak, never forget that behind every mind sits a heart, and behind every heart a dream. If your words do not touch that dream, your reasoning will die stillborn. But if you awaken feeling, logic becomes your servant. Emotion opens the gate. Reason builds the road. One without the other is useless. Consider the story of Dr. Frank Gunsaulus. For years, he dreamed of founding a college where young men could study practical philosophy. He had no money, only belief. One Sunday, he stood before his congregation and declared with absolute conviction that within days he would receive $1 million to make the dream real. His certainty, his emotion, his faith swept through the audience like flame through dry leaves. Before the week ended, one man gave him the full sum. Gunsaulus had persuaded not through logic, but through emotion harmonized with faith. Before you speak, feel deeply the emotion you wish others to feel. If you wish them to have confidence, speak from confidence. If you wish them to believe, let your tone breathe belief. Emotion is contagious. The mind is sensitive to vibration. It catches moods faster than thought. One calm heart can quiet a room of anger. One enthusiastic spirit can lift a weary assembly to action. Every emotion produces a tone, and others unconsciously match it. This is the law of inner vibration. When your emotion and intention unite, you create a rhythm that draws all who hear into its pattern. Speak with courage, and you will find courage rising in your listeners. Speak with gratitude, and hearts will open. Speak with love of purpose, and men will feel dignity in your cause. The great F.W. Woolworth understood this law. When he was ridiculed for his 5 and 10 cent stores, he answered laughter with humor, faith, and good cheer. His optimism was unshakable, his energy contagious. Investors who once mocked him soon begged to join him. He had mastered the psychology of emotional influence. He understood that joy persuades more effectively than justification. Emotion is the breath of faith. Without it, belief remains an idea. With it, belief becomes power. A cold truth never saved a soul. A warm one has turned entire nations toward greatness. Let your words, therefore, be alive with feeling. Do not recite them. Believe them. Speak as though every syllable carried your fortune. When you feel your message as fire within, your audience will feel its warmth without. Remember that emotion, like flame, must be guided, or it consumes rather than illuminates. The wise speaker controls intensity as a blacksmith controls heat. Too little fire and metal remains unmoved. Too much and it melts without form. So too must you balance passion with poise. The calm beneath the fervor gives words their dignity. Emotion without discipline is noise. Emotion directed by will is power. Persuasion is rhythm. Every effective sentence has tempo. Rise and fall, breath and pause, silence and sound. Listen to your own speech. Feel its cadence. Speech is music, and the audience responds to tone before meaning. A pause before a truth can double its force. The pause is not emptiness, it is expectancy. Silence draws the listener inward, making him a participant in your message. Those who fear silence weaken their words. Affirm daily this principle. My feeling shapes my words. I speak faith, I breathe conviction, I awaken desire. Repeat it until the rhythm of your speech carries this assurance. Let your emotion be your ally, not your master. Rule it gently as a horseman guides a spirited steed. Firm hand, calm voice, clear direction. Then emotion will work for you with tireless strength. Let us examine why emotion persuades where intellect fails. The subconscious mind, which governs habit and action, speaks the language of feeling. It does not reason, it reacts. It is impressed by intensity, repetition, and belief. Therefore, if you wish to influence another, you must first influence this deeper mind. Speak not only to his reason, but to his emotional sense of what is right, safe, or desirable. The subconscious cannot resist vivid feeling expressed with confidence. The greatest communicators are those who can awaken emotion without violating integrity. They use feeling to serve truth, not to disguise it. Deception may succeed briefly, but it dies quickly. Real persuasion uplifts both speaker and listener. The man who manipulates for gain builds his own ruin. The man who inspires for service builds an empire that endures. Observe the example of Charles Schwab once more. When steelworkers quarreled and morale dropped, he did not scold. He praised sincerely, smiled generously, and found good in their efforts. His emotions softened hearts. Through warmth and appreciation, he restored unity. He knew that kindness persuades where command repels. Every man wishes to be seen as capable. Appeal to that desire and loyalty becomes natural. Emotion also guides timing. Know when to press and when to wait. If you feel tension rise, pause. Let your silence absorb heat. If enthusiasm wanes, introduce energy with renewed faith. You are the conductor of invisible forces. Your awareness is your baton. The best communicators are sensitive to these inner shifts. They adjust tone instinctively. Beware of false passion. When emotion is forced, it repels. When genuine, it attracts. The body cannot counterfeit the resonance of sincerity. If your aim is selfish, your tone will betray it. The subconscious of others is your judge. It cannot be deceived. Therefore, cleanse your motive before you raise your voice. Speak not to display power, but to deliver value. Speech used rightly blesses both giver and receiver. When you master emotional guidance, you will notice a change in how others respond. They will lean forward when you speak, not because of the words, but because they feel understood. They will sense in your tone something noble, something that awakens their own higher nature. You will no longer push ideas into them. You will draw their belief outward. This is the difference between manipulation and inspiration. The law of emotional influence applies not only to audiences, but to every conversation. Speak to a child, a friend, or a colleague with genuine emotion, and watch how trust grows. Indifference is death to communication. Emotion is life. Even a rebuke spoken with care inspires more than a compliment spoken with coldness. Emotional mastery is spiritual mastery. When you rule your emotions, you rule the invisible forces that move men. Do not suppress them, refine them. Passion is holy when directed by purpose. The man who feels deeply yet calmly is irresistible. Others sense his power and follow without command. He has become what all men long to be: alive, decisive, sincere. Let this reflection close our lesson. The mind persuades by design, the heart persuades by devotion. Unite the two, and you possess the full art of influence. Speak truth with warmth, conviction with calm, faith with humility. Then your words will not merely convince, they will convert doubt into belief, indifference into desire, hesitation into decision. Repeat to yourself this affirmation before you address another soul. My emotion serves my purpose. I feel what I wish others to feel. My tone awakens courage, faith, and goodwill. My words carry power because my heart carries truth. Let it be said of you, as it was of every man who shaped history with words, that when you spoke, hearts caught fire, minds saw light, and action followed naturally. For logic teaches, but emotion transforms, and transformation is the true measure of persuasive power. Before a single word leaves your mouth, your presence has already begun to speak. It tells the world how you regard yourself, how you regard others, and whether you are to be heard or dismissed. Presence is silent speech. It broadcasts conviction long before language begins. Every movement, every pause, every breath reveals the rank of your inner command. People decide whether to listen to you before they understand a single word. Their judgment is not formed by logic, but by impression. The mind instinctively asks, does this man believe himself? Does he know what he is saying? Is he certain of his place? If the answer is yes, attention follows. If no, nothing you say afterward can fully persuade. For authority begins in carriage, not in vocabulary. Presence is invisible power felt more than seen. It is the quiet certainty of one who does not need to prove himself. The louder the boast, the weaker the self-belief. The man who owns his thoughts does not demand attention. Attention obeys him. You have seen such men, those whose calm fills the room, whose silence weighs more than another's argument. They possess what I call the composure of kingship. Once a young salesman trembled as he stood before a wealthy client. His voice hurried, his hands betrayed unease, his sentences tangled in apology. The deal faltered. On another day, after studying self-control, he tried again. This time, he slowed his breath, steadied his hands, and spoke only after full pauses. The client leaned in, feeling calm where once there had been pressure. The sale was secured. The man later confessed, "I said less, but meant more." His power grew not from words, but from presence. Silence is the amplifier of power. Weak men fear it because it exposes insecurity. Wise men use it because it multiplies significance. A pause before speaking is a declaration of confidence. The hasty man betrays desperation. The composed man governs pace and rhythm as a conductor governs music. He understands that anticipation magnifies impact. When he pauses, the listener leans forward, compelled by curiosity and respect. There exists what I call the pause of dominance, the brief stillness between thought and word in which authority gathers. The impatient speaker rushes past it. The master uses it to charge the next sentence with power. Observe the speeches of great leaders and you will notice it. The silence that says, "Attend, something important is coming." Consider Woodrow Wilson. His voice was measured, his pauses deliberate, his tone restrained. Others shouted, he reasoned. Others gestured wildly, he stood composed. Yet when he spoke, his calm words carried further than the noise of others. His listeners felt they were hearing truth weighed and chosen, not thrown carelessly. His pauses commanded more attention than the clamor of lesser men. Physical stillness mirrors mental control. The restless gesture, the tapping hand, the shifting feet, these reveal inner turbulence. The body always betrays the mind. If you would master speech, master stillness. Let your movements be purposeful, your posture upright, your eyes steady. Stillness is not rigidity, it is centered strength. A single deliberate gesture from composure influences more deeply than 100 restless motions from nervousness. When you speak, use rhythm. Short sentences followed by calm silence build emphasis. The mind of your listener needs moments to absorb power. Do not fear these pauses. They are part of your melody. Persuasion is not a race. It is a dance. Those who rush their steps stumble. Those who move with control lead the floor. Affirm daily this creed: my calm is contagious. My silence commands. I speak from stillness, and stillness multiplies my power. Practice breathing slowly before important conversations. Inhale confidence. Exhale doubt. The voice obeys breath. When breath is steady, tone is steady. No actor, no orator, no statesman achieves greatness without learning to breathe as a master of himself. Remember Henry Ford, who often let others speak until they revealed all their thoughts. He listened in silence, weighing every word. When he finally spoke, his sentences were short, his meaning unshakable. Because he said little, each word seemed golden. His restraint made his counsel irresistible. Power often lies not in what is said, but in what is left unsaid. Silence is not emptiness. It is presence intensified. It signals control of time. The one who pauses shows he is not hurried by pressure. The one who fills every gap with chatter exposes need for approval. To master persuasion, you must learn to rest comfortably within silence. It is the throne upon which authority sits. Use silence as a weapon of peace. In argument, the loudest voice loses. When others shout, lower your tone. When they rush, slow down. Calmness disarms fury as water quenches fire. The opponent who meets tranquility feels foolish for anger. The listener who hears serenity feels compelled to listen. In this way, presence itself persuades more than reasoning. In every conversation, control the rhythm of speech. Alternate sound and stillness as nature alternates day and night. No one can listen forever without pause. Give them space to absorb your thought. When silence follows conviction, your listener completes the sentence within himself, and the idea becomes his own. That is the highest form of persuasion. Presence also depends on moral posture. You cannot stand firmly outward if your conscience trembles inward. The man whose motive is pure carries an invisible peace that no acting can imitate. He may pause often, but each pause radiates sincerity. The dishonest man, fearing exposure, cannot hold silence without discomfort. Integrity steadies the body as faith steadies the voice. Be deliberate with gesture. When you move, let movement carry meaning. The hand lifted to emphasize a point, the step forward to close a thought, the still gaze to punctuate conviction. These are physical affirmations of mental order. But when you flail aimlessly, you scatter energy. Each motion must serve purpose, as every word must serve truth. Learn to study rooms before speaking. Presence begins before introduction. Stand with quiet dignity, observe in stillness, and let others feel your composure. Those who hurry to dominate attention reveal insecurity. Those who hold themselves calmly inspire curiosity. By the time you speak, hearts are already open. When you speak to a group, let your eyes travel slowly. Fast glances appear anxious. Steady gaze transmits assurance. Each look should rest long enough to connect, but not long enough to challenge. The listener must feel included, not examined. Influence grows in those who feel seen and respected. True authority is gentle, never overbearing. Pause also at endings. The final silence after your words allows them to sink deeply. Resist the urge to fill that moment. Great truths need space to echo. Trust your message enough to let it stand unaccompanied. The pause after strength is reverence for truth. There is an unspoken aura around men who command silence, crowds quiet as they enter. This aura is not mystical. It is the accumulation of disciplined thought, emotional control, and moral clarity. The man who practices these daily emits assurance as naturally as a lamp emits light. The world bows to such presence, not out of fear, but out of recognition of order. Silence, when mastered, becomes language itself. It communicates patience, authority, understanding, and peace. The one who fears it is ruled by others. The one who commands it rules himself. You will know you have reached mastery when your pauses make others wait willingly, when your quietness carries comfort instead of tension. Let this truth be fixed in your mind. Every act of restraint increases influence. To remain still when others tremble, to remain quiet when others argue, to remain composed when others panic, these are proofs of power. Words may fail, but composure never does. It is persuasion beyond speech. Repeat to yourself before every important meeting, I bring calm where others bring confusion. I carry silence as strength, not absence. My composure teaches others to trust my words before they are spoken. With this conviction, your very bearing will communicate leadership. Presence and silence are the twin pillars of authority. Together, they make the voice of a man heavier with meaning, slower with purpose, calmer with confidence. They convert ordinary sentences into commands and common ideas into convictions. Learn to wield them, and your influence will outlast your speech. When you leave a room, let your silence remain behind as a presence felt but unseen, the quiet assurance that truth was spoken and need not shout. The world will always yield to the man who governs himself so completely that even his pauses persuade. Persuasion is not born from complexity, it springs from clarity. The man who speaks with simplicity rules those who cloud their meaning with many words. Confusion weakens authority. Definiteness strengthens it. Speech, like a blade, cuts best when it is clean and sharp. The purpose of words is not to decorate thought, but to direct it with precision toward a definite result. Words are tools, not ornaments. The man of influence selects them as a craftsman selects his instruments. Each has a purpose and none is wasted. The untrained speaker speaks to fill silence. The master speaks to fill understanding. The first seeks applause, the second seeks effect. One is content to sound impressive, the other insists on being clear. Every great builder begins with a plan. So must you before you speak. Form a clear mental blueprint of the outcome you wish to create. Decide first what you want your listener to think, to feel, and to do. Then every word becomes a brick laid toward that design. Without such preparation, speech wanders as a traveler without map or compass. Andrew Carnegie once addressed a hall of laborers. His sentences were short, his imagery plain, his tone certain. He painted in simple words the vision of what industry could become if men worked with unity of purpose. The workers understood at once. They felt themselves part of something larger. His simplicity created clarity, and clarity created loyalty. The complicated man often loses his audience. The clear man gains their faith. Long explanations weaken persuasion. Brevity intensifies it. Each additional word is a step away from the heart of your message. The listener's attention is precious currency. Spend it wisely. Every sentence should either move belief or lose it. When you find yourself repeating what could be said once with certainty, you are not strengthening conviction. You are suffocating it. The man who speaks with precision is trusted. The one who rambles is doubted. Vagueness is the fog where influence is lost. To speak precisely, first think precisely. Indefinite thought breeds indefinite speech. The disciplined mind cuts away excess until only the essential remains. The listener then feels safe, as a traveler does when the path is clear and straight. Remember this: people remember images, not arguments. A single vivid picture persuades more than 100 explanations. Elbert Hubbard understood this truth. His essays and speeches were short, direct, and painted with living pictures. He spoke of men and principles in stories simple enough for a child, yet profound enough for a philosopher. His clarity reached where intellect alone could not. Use examples, analogies, and stories to make ideas breathe. They bypass the barriers of reasoning and speak directly to the imagination. When you tell a story, your listener sees what you mean rather than struggles to understand what you say. The mind resists instruction but welcomes imagination. Make your words windows, not walls. Tone, too, demands variety and rhythm. Speak as nature breathes, in waves. Monotony numbs, rhythm awakens. A change in pace or emphasis reclaims attention more surely than a shout. Speak some sentences as short blows of certainty, others as long flowing lines of reflection. Together, they create melody, the natural harmony of conviction and calm. Affirm daily. My words are clear, my thoughts are definite, my message strikes like truth itself, simple, direct, and undeniable. This affirmation disciplines your tongue to serve thought rather than vanity. The temptation to speak cleverly is the greatest enemy of clarity. The purpose of speech is not to prove intellect, but to awaken understanding. Abraham Lincoln gave the world a perfect example in his address at Gettysburg. In less than 3 minutes, he spoke sentences that have outlived centuries. There was no ornament, no flourish, only purpose. His simplicity gave birth to immortality. People feel sincerity when it is expressed without excess. The simplest truth shines brightest because it reflects no vanity. Confusion in speech arises from confusion in motive. Ask yourself before you open your mouth, why am I speaking? Is it to serve truth, to uplift others, to clarify thought, or to be admired? If the motive is pure, clarity follows naturally. If vanity intrudes, clarity dies. The world always senses whether your words are service or show. In every conversation, your listener secretly asks 3 questions. Does this man know what he means? Does he believe what he says? Does he care that I understand? If you answer yes through clarity, belief, and warmth, persuasion is inevitable. If you answer no through confusion, the listener may nod, but his heart will remain untouched. Never confuse simplicity with weakness. Simplicity is not the absence of knowledge, but the mastery of it. It is the power to compress understanding into essence. The greatest thinkers are the plainest speakers. They have refined truth until only strength remains. Complexity often hides insecurity. Simplicity reveals confidence. If you would persuade, avoid the clutter of excessive adjectives and meaningless words. Speak plainly as you would to a child or a friend. The mark of true intellect is the ability to make the complex simple, not the simple complex. The world bows to the man who can express great ideas in few words because it recognizes in him mastery of thought. Clarity also demands honesty. The listener must feel that what you say is exact, not exaggerated. When you stretch the truth, even slightly, your tone loses balance. Precision in speech is moral discipline as well as mental. Speak what is accurate, not what is convenient. Nothing strengthens persuasion like trust. Nothing destroys it faster than suspicion. Let your sentences be firm but flexible, firm in direction, flexible in tone. Adjust pace and emphasis to the listener's level of understanding. Speak slowly enough for your meaning to land, but not so slow that your energy fades. Each word should feel deliberate, necessary, alive. Too much haste blurs impact. Too much caution kills vitality. Balance is the golden rule of clarity. Practice speaking aloud short truths with complete conviction. Say them as though engraving them upon stone. Courage builds men. Doubt destroys them. A definite aim commands results. Simplicity is strength. Each phrase trains your subconscious to express conviction in few words. The mind, like muscle, grows strong through disciplined repetition. Observe the masters of influence: Edison, Ford, Carnegie. None were elaborate speakers, yet all persuaded nations. Why? Because they knew what they meant, said it plainly, and believed it absolutely. Their words were few because their thoughts were definite. The power of their conviction carried where rhetoric would have failed. Mental overspeech is the disease of the insecure. When a man doubts his message, he tries to hide uncertainty behind sound. He speaks too much because he believes too little. Silence between clear sentences is more persuasive than endless talking. When you know your idea is true, you need not decorate it. Truth defends itself. Picture your words as arrows. Each must be aimed, balanced, and released with precision. Do not shoot wildly and hope that one will strike. Take aim through thought. Draw strength from conviction. Release with calm. The listener feels the force of directed simplicity. 1,000 scattered words cannot equal one that finds its mark. Practice clarity until it becomes instinct. The disciplined speaker pauses before responding, arranges thought, and delivers it plainly. Over time, his voice gains the calm assurance of mastery. Others will listen longer, remember more, and trust deeper because his meaning is never lost in fog. Finally, remember this law. The simpler your message, the more complex its echo. When words are few but charged with faith, they live on in the listener's mind, expanding with his reflection. Speak once with power, and your silence will continue the persuasion long after you depart. Speak truth plainly. Let purpose replace performance. Let clarity replace cleverness. When simplicity governs your words, your speech becomes an instrument of command. The simplest expression of truth is the most enduring expression of power. Persuasion does not mean pushing your thought into another's mind. It means awakening his own. The great communicators never force, they reveal. They do not overpower the listener. They make him recognize himself in their words. This is the law of reflection, the ability to speak so that another feels understood, seen, and inspired to follow willingly. Every man hungers for recognition of his unseen self. Within each soul is a silent voice pleading, "Understand me. See what I see. Believe what I feel but cannot say." When your speech gives language to that hidden voice, the listener feels that you speak for him, not at him. In that instant, he lowers his guard and opens his heart. The most persuasive speech in the world is the one that makes the listener say within himself, "That is true of me." To persuade, you must first listen, not with ears only, but with imagination. You must sense the hidden motive behind words, the emotion beneath logic, the longing behind complaint. The man who listens deeply gains more influence than the man who talks cleverly. Listening is not passivity. It is preparation for precision. It gathers the materials with which true persuasion is built. A young salesman once struggled to close his transactions. He spoke eloquently, but his clients resisted. One day, he changed his method. Instead of describing his product, he asked about their concerns, repeated their fears, and reflected their desires in his responses. He made them feel understood before he offered his solution. Within weeks, his results doubled. His power came not from selling, but from mirroring. People obey those who understand them. The principle is simple yet profound. Agreement begins with understanding. You cannot lead a man until you first walk beside him. The listener must feel the warmth of kinship before he accepts the authority of guidance. Empathy is the bridge from his world to yours. Cross it first, then invite him to follow back. True communication mirrors not only words, but emotion. When another speaks with frustration, meet it with calm acknowledgement. When he speaks from hope, reflect optimism. When he speaks in doubt, answer with faith. Reflection does not mean imitation. It means alignment of understanding. By showing that you comprehend his state, you earn the right to influence it. Napoleon Bonaparte mastered this law on the battlefield and in council. Before commanding his soldiers, he spoke their language, shared their hardships, and honored their courage. He called them "my children," and they adored him. When he later gave commands, they obeyed without hesitation. He mirrored their spirit first, then led it to his vision. Connection before direction. This is leadership through reflection. Speech that lacks empathy becomes command without loyalty. You may force obedience for a time, but it will dissolve when pressure lifts. Only the leader who understands his followers commands their hearts as well as their hands. This same law governs persuasion in every walk of life: business, friendship, family, and public address. When you reflect a man's inner truth, I have said, he hears his own conscience in your voice. He begins to trust you because he recognizes himself in you. Your influence becomes personal. You cease to be an outsider and become his ally. Such influence cannot be purchased, and it cannot be resisted. The imaginative man rules communication because he feels what others feel. He steps beyond his own viewpoint and sees through the eyes of another. Imagination is the invisible cord that ties one mind to another. It translates your purpose into their experience. Without imagination, words fall lifeless. With it, they take root in the soil of another soul. Practice this. When preparing to speak, close your eyes and picture the listener's life, his worries, his hopes. Ask yourself, what truth does he most need to hear? How can my message relieve his burden or strengthen his courage? Then build your words around that answer. Persuasion is service. You lead best when you understand needs best. Empathy, however, must be joined with definiteness. To merely feel is sympathy. To guide feeling toward purpose is mastery. Once you have established connection, gently lead. Do not remain mirror. Become model. The one who reflects forever ceases to direct. The goal is to harmonize first, then elevate. Influence is the art of lifting another's thought to a higher plane without breaking the bond of understanding. Dr. David Starr Jordan, the educator, exemplified this. He inspired students not through command, but through reflection. He awakened in them the confidence they already possessed but had forgotten. His words were mirrors of their potential. They left his presence believing not in him, but in themselves. That is the highest persuasion, to awaken self-belief in another. When you speak thus, people will say afterward, "He understands me. He sees what I could be." They will feel drawn to your company and your counsel. This is not flattery. It is resonance. You have tuned your message to the deeper vibration of their mind. They cannot resist what feels like recognition of truth. Use the power of repetition in this art. When you state what the listener already feels, repeat it with emphasis. Each repetition deepens rapport. You want stability. You deserve it. You fear uncertainty, but you are capable of mastering it. Each echo strengthens belief. The subconscious loves repetition because it mistakes it for truth. Use this not to deceive, but to confirm the noble in others. Affirm before every conversation, I listen with understanding. I speak with truth. My words reveal to others their own strength. When this becomes habit, persuasion becomes character. People will find peace in your company, clarity in your speech, and direction in your example. Reflection also governs tone. The tone of understanding carries warmth. The tone of arrogance carries frost. People close their minds when they feel judged. They open them when they feel valued. Therefore, make your tone an instrument of kindness. Speak firmly but with goodwill. Command without contempt, instruct without superiority. Men yield gladly to those who respect them. If you find resistance in a listener, do not push harder. Reflect deeper. Resistance is not rebellion, it is misunderstanding. Show him that you see his view clearly, then gently lead him to broader understanding. The one who feels seen is willing to see anew. Reflection melts opposition where argument would harden it. Remember, the aim of persuasion is not victory, but harmony. When two minds move together toward truth, both are enriched. Persuasion achieved through empathy endures because it leaves dignity intact. Those who lose argument resent it. Those who feel understood remember it with gratitude. Train your imagination as carefully as your diction. Before entering a room, imagine the atmosphere you wish to create. Feel within yourself the calm confidence, the compassion, the decisiveness you intend others to mirror. Emotion precedes expression. What you hold inwardly, you will reflect outwardly. The world is your mirror. Align your inner state, and others will align to you. The greatest proof of this law lies in how swiftly people adopt the mood of a confident leader. One man walks into a room filled with anxiety, and within minutes, calm spreads. Another enters with irritation, and tension rises. Neither has spoken a word. Their presence reflects their inner state, and others mirror it unconsciously. That is why the man who governs himself governs others without command. And every conversation with understanding, not with victory. Make your listener feel richer for having met you, richer in clarity, in courage, or in confidence. Then persuasion becomes service, and service is eternal. The man who helps another understand himself wins influence that no rivalry can destroy. Let this law be your creed. I reflect the best in others. I understand before I instruct. I lead without forcing. I awaken truth already present. To speak thus is to persuade not through power, but through purpose. Reflection is the invisible thread that binds hearts before minds have time to resist. When you have mastered this art, you will find that people change around you naturally. They will think more clearly, act more confidently, and trust more deeply. They will not know why, but you will. You have learned to speak into the mind of another, not as a conqueror, but as a mirror of his highest self. The true measure of persuasive power is not how many you convince in a moment, but how many remember you after you are gone. A temporary victory of speech is nothing beside the enduring authority of character. Words may pass, but the spirit that uttered them remains. That is the crown of influence, moral authority. Without it, eloquence is a sword without edge. With it, even a whisper carries weight beyond measure. Persuasion, divorced from conscience, becomes manipulation, and manipulation dies young. It may dazzle for an hour, but it decays with the first breath of doubt. The world remembers voices that uplift, not those that deceive. Men will forgive mistakes of judgment, but they never forget a betrayal of trust. To speak persuasively, one must first live truthfully. Speech is only an echo of being. The man whose motive is pure carries invisible power. Others may not analyze it, yet they feel it. His tone carries calm authority. His words command belief before reason approves. Such a man needs no tricks, no performance. His integrity itself is argument. The world bows not before cleverness, but before clean motive. Observe Abraham Lincoln. He persuaded not through oratory alone, but through character. His words were extensions of his conscience. He spoke softly, but his moral weight could move armies. When he said, "With malice toward none, with charity for all," he spoke what he lived. His persuasion endured because it rose from justice, mercy, and faith in the good of men. Moral authority is the highest currency of influence. You may win attention with brilliance, but you win hearts with trust. Trust is built by consistency between belief and behavior, speech and conduct, promise and fulfillment. Break it once, and you spend years repairing what could have been guarded by one moment of honesty. The world is filled with men who can talk. It listens only to those who embody. You cannot separate your message from your example. One gives power to the other. Every sentence carries your moral signature. If that signature is forged, your influence collapses. Speak always from alignment with principle, and you will never need to raise your voice. There is a difference between the applause of the crowd and the respect of the conscience. The first vanishes with the echo. The second endures through generations. The man who speaks for truth may not be cheered today, but time will defend his words. The man who speaks for gain may prosper briefly, but history will erase his name. The crown of influence is bestowed by eternity, not by fashion. Booker T. Washington understood this. He spoke to those who despised him and left them silent with respect. His tone was gentle but unwavering, his motive pure, his patience endless. Even his critics felt compelled to honor him, for his voice carried moral gravity. He asked for no sympathy, offered no anger, only calm demonstration of dignity. That is persuasion beyond rhetoric. It is virtue commanding recognition. People feel the difference between one who wants something from them and one who wants something for them. The first provokes resistance, the second invites allegiance. Purity of motive shines through every word. When you speak to serve rather than to profit, the world unconsciously aligns with you. For truth is magnetic. It attracts all that is like itself. Affirm this always. I speak with integrity. My words heal, build, and inspire. My motive is pure. Therefore, my power is permanent. Repeat it until every phrase you utter carries the fragrance of sincerity. When you speak thus, even silence between your sentences becomes convincing. The world senses your intention before it hears your idea. Understand that moral authority is born of inner discipline. You cannot govern your words until you have governed your thoughts. You cannot influence others until you have conquered yourself. The untrained man says what pleases. The disciplined man says what is true. The first gains flattery, the second gains faith. Self-control is the proof of reliability. Reliability is the foundation of trust. Do not fear honesty. Truth may seem costly in the moment, but falsehood demands compound interest forever. A man who lies once must guard 1,000 untruths. A man who speaks truly sleeps in peace. Confidence in yourself comes from knowing that every word you speak can withstand scrutiny. The voice of integrity carries further than the voice of artifice. Your reputation is the echo of your character. Each word you speak contributes to that echo. Speak rashly, and it scatters. Speak rightly, and it reverberates for years. One betrayal can destroy what 10 virtues built. Guard your influence by guarding your honor. The man who treats speech as sacred will find that others treat his word as bond. Persuasion that uplifts others ennobles the speaker. Every time you use words to encourage, strengthen, or enlighten, you refine your own nature. Influence, when pure, purifies. It makes the heart generous, the mind clear, and the purpose strong. Those who speak with this spirit create not followers, but leaders, men who rise in their own dignity because you believed in their potential. When a man's speech serves the good of others, his influence becomes immortal. Dr. Frank Gonzalez, Carnegie, Edison, Lincoln, each built empires of thought that endure because they spoke with moral purpose. They sought not applause, but advancement of human possibility. The world cannot forget such men because their words carried the vibration of sincerity. Those who live these laws of persuasion, faith, clarity, calm, reflection, integrity, become pillars of reliability in a restless age. Others seek them instinctively, as travelers seek light in fog. You will find that once your character is established as sound, your words carry authority even in absence. Decisions will be made in your favor because men trust your unseen presence. When your moral power ripens, your influence will outlast your efforts. A single phrase spoken from integrity will repeat itself in the minds of others long after you have ceased speaking. They will quote you without realizing it, follow your example without remembering its source. You will have achieved what every great soul desires, to impress truth upon eternity. Remember, the crown of influence is not granted. It is earned by constancy. You must polish it daily through self-examination. Ask yourself, were my motives clean? Did my words build or wound? Did I speak truth or convenience? Let conscience correct where pride resists. This is the true maintenance of greatness. When you reach mastery of speech joined with purity of motive, others will see you differently. They will speak of you as the man whose word is law, the one whose promise needs no witness, the voice that calms confusion. Business will seek you, friendship will trust you, and even adversaries will respect you, for they will recognize in you what they secretly wish to be, steady, certain, sincere. And so the full circle of persuasion is complete. It begins in thought, moves through faith, grows through emotion, steadies in silence, sharpens in clarity, softens in understanding, and crowns itself in integrity. Each law leads to the next, and together they form mastery of influence, the art of commanding not by force, but by faith and character. Now speak this final decree as one who has completed his training. I have mastered the art of speaking. My words carry faith. My tone carries truth. My silence carries weight. I persuade by principle. I lead by example. And life itself listens when I speak. Say it until your breath believes it. For this is not mere recital. It is coronation. The crown of influence rests not upon the eloquent tongue, but upon the honest heart. Keep it polished by service, and the world will forever bend its ear to your voice.